A little girl screamed, "Daddy, that's my brother." The millionaire froze and collapsed in tears. "Daddy, look. That's my brother. He looks just like me and like you." Emily tugged at James Whittaker's hand, her little finger pointing toward the park path. It was a quiet afternoon in Central Park. Since his wife Claire passed away from cancer, James had poured everything into raising Emily alone. Their weekend walks were his way of holding on to her and to the little girl who was now his whole world. James stopped in his tracks, startled by her words. "What did you just say?" he asked, narrowing his eyes at her. She spun around to face him, her pink dress swishing with the movement, cheeks flushed with excitement. Emily insisted, "That boy over there sitting by the fountain, he's my brother." James turned to look. A little boy, no older than 5, sat huddled on the edge of the concrete bench, a battered cardboard box clutched to his chest. His clothes were torn and dirty, and his shoes barely held together. But what stunned James wasn't the boy's appearance. It was his eyes, bright, piercing blue, the same exact shade as Emily's. "Emily, do not say things like that," James said, trying to keep his voice calm. "You don't have a brother. You only have me." "No, Daddy." "I know it," she insisted, her eyes wide and serious. "That's my brother. I feel it." James frowned. This was not some childish fantasy. The boy's eyes. He could not ignore the resemblance, the shape of his nose, the curve of his cheek. There was something hauntingly familiar. His heart began to pound. The boy was staring back now, silent, cautious, but his gaze didn't waver. James slowly approached him, Emily still clutching his hand. He crouched down in front of the child. "Hey there," he said softly. "What's your name?" The boy held the box tighter, saying nothing. James tried again. "I'm James. This is my daughter, Emily. We were just walking through the park." The boy looked at Emily, then back at James. His voice was barely a whisper. "Noah." "Noah," James repeated. "That's a nice name. Where's your mom, Noah?" He hesitated, then muttered, "At home. She's sick." James's chest tightened. He asked carefully, "Do you live far from here?" Noah looked down. "We live in the basement apartment over on 43rd Street. Mama doesn't let me go far, but today she was sleeping too long and there wasn't any food, so I came out." "Do you have a dad?" James asked, though his voice faltered mid-sentence. Noah shook his head. "Mama said he left before I was born." James felt dizzy. He tried to shake the thought, but something in the boy's features made it impossible to ignore. His mind raced backward through the years. 6 years ago, a woman had worked briefly in his company. A kind, shy woman named Mary Carter. Blonde hair, blue eyes. She had been fired under complicated circumstances, a mix-up with accounting files that had spiraled out of control. She never fought the decision, just vanished. Could it be? James reached into the small backpack he had slung over one shoulder. Emily had insisted on bringing snacks. He took out a wrapped sandwich and held it out to Noah. "Here," he said gently. "You must be hungry." Noah looked at it, hesitated, then took it cautiously. He mumbled, "Thank you." James watched the boy eat slowly and quietly as if afraid someone would take it away. There was something heartbreakingly graceful in the way he sat, like he was used to making himself invisible. Beside him, Emily sat cross-legged on the grass and smiled. "Hi, Noah," she said brightly. "I like your eyes. They're just like mine." Noah looked at her, blinking. A faint smile curled his lip. James's heart ached. He stood up and stepped back, trying to breathe. He glanced at Emily, then at Noah, then back again. Same eyes, same face shape. The resemblance was undeniable. He reached for his phone and dialed his assistant. Monica, he said, his voice tight. I need you to find everything you can about a former employee, Mary Carter. She worked here about 6 years ago. Start with HR records. Anything you can get your hands on. Monica didn't ask questions. Yes, Mr. Whitaker. I'm on it. James hung up and looked down at the two children. Emily was now showing Noah her stuffed bunny, talking to him like they had known each other forever. He knelt down again. Noah, he said softly. How would you feel about coming with us for a little while just to have a good meal and make sure you're okay? Then I'll take you back to your mom. Noah stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded, clutching the sandwich and his box close to his chest. James stood, lifting Emily into his arms and placing a gentle hand on Noah's shoulder. He did not know what he would find or what truth lay buried in the past. But something told him that his life had just changed forever. And it all began with a little girl in a pink dress pointing across the park and saying words he would never forget. Daddy, that's my brother. The elevator door slid open to reveal James' penthouse on the top floor of a glass-clad tower overlooking Central Park. Noah hesitated at the threshold, clutching his tattered cardboard box as if it were the only thing holding him to the ground. Come in, buddy, James said gently. You're safe here. Emily darted ahead, her curls bouncing as she ran through the wide hallway, calling, Come on, Noah. You have to see my room. It's pink and has stars on the ceiling. Noah stepped in slowly, eyes wide as they scanned the polished floors, the towering windows, the sparkling chandelier. It was a world far removed from the cracked sidewalks and leaky roofs of his own neighborhood. He followed Emily down the hall, still hugging the box to his chest. James watched them disappear into Emily's room, then walked to his home office. He sat down at his desk and opened a locked cabinet. Inside were company records, documents he had not touched in years. He pulled out the old employee files and began flipping through them, page after page, until he found her name, Mary Carter. He stared at the file. The photo stapled in the corner showed a young woman with golden hair and a warm smile. She had been a receptionist for less than a year. There had been a misunderstanding about a client report, one that led to an argument between her and a junior manager. James remembered that day vaguely. He had been tired, overwhelmed, and quick to take sides. He signed the termination without asking questions. He never saw her again. But there had been an email. Or had there been more than one messages he never replied to, flagged as follow-up, and then buried under contracts and board meeting agendas? She had tried to reach him and now the pieces were falling into place. Mary Carter had left the company pregnant alone. He found a recent address linked to her name through the company's old emergency contact form. It was in Brooklyn, an apartment in a rundown building known for cheap rentals and poor maintenance. James searched the address online and found images of cracked walls and graffiti-tagged doors. A pit grew in his stomach. Noah had been telling the truth. His mother was sick and she had been raising him in poverty while James built skyscrapers and attended galas. James leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face with both hands. Guilt clawed at him. He had not just forgotten her. He had dismissed her, discarded her when she needed him most. And now there was a child. His child. He could not be sure, but in his heart, he already knew. That night, while Emily and Noah played with building blocks on the living room carpet, James made a phone call. He contacted a discreet charity organization that delivered aid to struggling families without revealing donors. He gave them Mary's address. I want a full grocery order sent, he said. Include fruits, vegetables, meat and medicine, vitamins, cleaning supplies, no branding, no notes. Just deliver it quietly. Understood, the representative replied. It will be there by morning. He ended the call and returned to the living room. Emily had draped a blanket over 2 chairs, creating a makeshift fort. She crawled inside and pulled Noah in with her, giggling. This is the castle, and you're the prince, she declared. Noah smiled, small, hesitant, but real. James felt a lump in his throat. The way the boy responded to kindness. The way he looked at Emily like she was the sun. The way his shoulders relaxed just slightly when no one raised their voice. He had seen all this before in himself, in people who had grown up too fast. James stood at the edge of the scene, silently watching. He had to do more than send groceries. He had to face Mary, ask her the truth, tell her he was sorry, and be ready for whatever answer she gave him. The next morning, James dressed quietly while Emily and Noah still slept. When they woke, he gave them breakfast. Pancakes, fresh strawberries, orange juice. He told Emily they were going on a little adventure. Noah looked nervous. Are we going far? Not too far, James said. Just somewhere important. He packed a small bag for the boy, including clean clothes and a new toy Emily had insisted on giving him. As they stepped into the car, James's driver glanced at him in the rear-view mirror, sensing the tension. Where to, Mr. Whitaker? He asked. James hesitated for just a second. Bro, he said finally. I'll give you the address on the way. He sat back, staring out the window as the skyline shifted, wealth fading into worn brick and rusted fences. His heart pounded as they neared the address. Today he would face the past. Today he would find out if the boy beside him was truly his son. And if he was, James vowed silently, he would never let him go again. The car crawled through a narrow street lined with graffiti-covered buildings and rusted fire escapes. James sat silently, watching the scenery shift from sleek glass towers to crumbling brick and worn sidewalks. He had passed neighborhoods like this before, but today it felt personal. When they arrived, he stepped out with Noah by his side. The boy clutched his small bag, eyes scanning the peeling paint and dim hallways. James took a deep breath and knocked on the faded green door of apartment 4B. Footsteps approached. The door creaked open. Mary. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Her hair was pulled back in a tired bun, her face pale and thinner, but still held a quiet grace that James recognized instantly. Noah, she gasped. The boy rushed into her arms. Mama. Mary clutched him, then looked up. Her voice dropped cold. James, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you, he said softly. Emily, my daughter, saw Noah. She said he's her brother. I didn't believe it, but I need to know the truth. Mary's jaw tightened. You don't get to ask questions. Not after what you did. Please, James said. Just give me a few minutes. She held Noah close, her voice trembling. I was pregnant. I tried to tell you. I sent emails, called, but no one let me through. Then I got fired. I had nothing. James looked stunned. Mary, I never saw any of that. I swear. She let out a bitter laugh. Of course you didn't. You were too busy being important. I was 24 and terrified. Then I had Noah. And I raised him alone. James's throat tightened. I'm sorry. I should have asked. Looked for you. Mary shook her head. You don't get to show up now and play savior. Noah has a life. It's not much, but it's ours. He swallowed hard. Mary, is he my son? She hesitated. Then, with a tear rolling down her cheek, she nodded. Yes, but I don't want your money. I just want to protect him. James knelt beside her. I'm not here to take him away. I just want to help. Mary's eyes were wary. I don't know if I can forgive you. I understand, but please let me try. He reached into his coat and placed an envelope on the counter. This isn't for forgiveness. It's for Noah. Rent, medicine, food. I'll come back tomorrow. Mary picked up the envelope, her fingers trembling. The hardness in her gaze faded just slightly. James added softly. "Will you let me take a DNA test just to be sure?" She hesitated again, then nodded. "Fine, but no promises." James stood. "That's all I ask." He looked at Noah, who held his mother's hand, but stared at James with cautious curiosity. James reached out, gently touched Noah's shoulder. "I'll see you soon, okay?" Noah gave a small nod, then, without warning, stepped forward, and hugged James's leg for just a moment. Mary said nothing. As James walked down the hall, his heart heavier than ever, he felt something else rise inside it. Hope. The envelope trembled in James's hand as he stood in his office, staring out over the Manhattan skyline. He had read it 3 times, but the words still hit like a wave. Probability of paternity 99.98%. Noah was his son. He exhaled slowly, then looked at the photo on his desk, Emily grinning in her pink dress. He picked up his phone. 2 hours later, Noah stood at the threshold of James's penthouse, not as a guest, but his family. Emily ran to him. "Noah, you're back. You're my big brother now for real." She tugged him excitedly into the living room. "This is your room now, or we can build another fort." James watched them quietly, a rare peace settling in his chest. But the moment was short-lived. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News had broken. Millionaire has secret love child. James Whittaker's hidden past exposed. Whittaker heir found in Brooklyn. Paparazzi swarmed his building. His office was overwhelmed. The board of directors demanded an emergency call. "You should have handled this privately," said Leonard Chase, his voice clipped. "This is damaging. Stocks are slipping." "This isn't a scandal," James replied. "It's my son." "You're risking our reputation," another added. James's voice sharpened. "If being a father is a risk, maybe we need to rethink what we stand for." He ended the call and stared out the window. Back inside, Noah was quiet, polite, but withdrawn. He sat alone during meals, spoke little, and often stared at the door, waiting for a mother who wasn't coming tonight. James saw it all. Money could build safety, but not trust, not love. That evening, he tried something different. "Noah," he said gently, kneeling beside him. "How about we make pizza tonight? Just us, me, you, and Emily." Noah blinked. "Make it?" James nodded from scratch. Emily clapped. "I want pepperoni flowers again." They rolled dough, made a mess with flour, and decorated pizzas with olive smiles. For the first time, laughter filled the kitchen. The penthouse felt like home. After dinner, James brought out a red bicycle identical to Emily's. "This is for you," he said softly. "You and your sister are a team now." Noah stared at it, then at James. He didn't speak, but nodded, his lips curling into the smallest real smile James had seen yet. Across the city, Mary sat on her couch, scrolling through news articles. Images of James with Noah were everywhere. Her chest tightened. He looked genuine. But could he really have changed? Her phone buzzed. James Whittaker. "Mary, I know this is a lot, but I want to do this right for Noah and for you. Please come visit. No pressure. Let's figure this out together." She read it again and again, then set the phone down. She remembered nights rocking Noah to sleep, wondering if she had made the right choice keeping him away. But now that man, the one who broke her heart, had faced the media storm, accepted Noah publicly and stood firm. Maybe, just maybe, in the penthouse, Noah and Emily were curled up under a blanket, a cartoon flickering in front of them. Noah's head rested gently on Emily's shoulder. James stepped out onto the balcony and stood in the cool night air. He had failed before, but he would not fail again. Tomorrow, Mary would come, and he would be ready. Mary stepped out of the elevator, her hands clenched tightly around the strap of her purse. The penthouse doors opened, revealing the warmth and light inside. Laughter echoed from the living room. She hesitated. James greeted her with a soft smile. "Mary," he said. "Thank you for coming." She nodded stiffly. "I'm here for Noah." James stepped aside, letting her in without another word. Noah was sprawled on the floor beside Emily, both children surrounded by puzzle pieces and crayons. He looked up, his face lighting up. "Mama," he called, running into her arms. Mary knelt, hugging him tightly. "How are you, sweetheart?" she asked. "I like it here," he said. "Emily's funny. We're drawing planets." Mary smiled faintly, but her eyes flicked toward James, wary. As the children played, James quietly offered her a cup of tea and motioned toward the sitting area. "Can we talk?" She sat down, still guarded. "I've made arrangements," James began, keeping his tone calm. "For your medical treatment. I spoke with the physician at the Ridgeway Center. You'll have access to anything you need, no cost to you." Mary stiffened. "I didn't ask for your charity." "I know," he said gently. "This isn't charity. It's the least I can do. For what I took from you." She looked away, silent. "I also spoke to a partner company," he continued. "They have an opening in their communications team. If you're interested, it's yours. No obligations." Mary raised an eyebrow. "So now I owe you a job, too?" "No," James said, "you owe me nothing. I just want to help. You deserve a life that isn't built on surviving." Mary stared at him, conflicted. She had imagined this meeting would be filled with pretense, with hollow words, but instead, here he was, not asking for her forgiveness, just quietly trying to fix what had been broken. Later that evening, while she watched Noah play with Emily, something remarkable happened. Noah was building a tower of blocks. It toppled over and Emily giggled. James bent down to help him rebuild it. "Want to try again?" he asked. Noah looked up and without thinking said softly, "Okay, Dad." James froze. So did Mary. Noah continued stacking blocks, unaware of the moment he had created. James swallowed hard. He did not speak, but his eyes met Mary's across the room, shimmering with unshed emotion. Mary said nothing. She simply watched them, her heart aching. The next morning, as she gathered her things to leave, she found a small box placed on the side table with a note. She opened it. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, an engraved disc with two names etched into the surface, Noah and Emily. The note read, "So you always remember that whatever happens between us, we are still a family because of them." Her hands trembled as she closed the box. She walked into the kitchen, where James stood preparing breakfast with the kids. She cleared her throat. "James," she said quietly. "I heard about my mother's hospital bill, the one that got paid last week." James looked up, surprised. "I didn't tell you she was sick," Mary said. "But you found out and you helped." "I did not want to make a show of it," James said. "I just wanted to help her get better." Mary's voice cracked. "You could have told me," he looked at her and said simply. "It was not about me. It was about what she means to you." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why are you doing all this?" "Because I failed you once," James said. "And I will spend the rest of my life trying not to fail you again." Mary stood still for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Noah can stay here for a while," she said. "He seems happy. He deserves that." "And you?" James asked gently. "I do not know yet," she replied honestly. "But I am willing to give you a chance to show me." James smiled, not pushing for more. That evening, as she left, Noah ran to the door and hugged her tightly. "I will be okay, Mama," he said. "We're a team now." She kissed his forehead always. As the elevator doors closed behind her, Mary held the necklace in her hand, fingers brushing over the names. Maybe, just maybe, healing had begun. Noah's first day of school came with a mix of excitement and quiet dread. Emily, proudly wearing her pink backpack, held his hand tightly as they walked into the classroom. She chatted endlessly, unbothered by the crowd of new faces. Noah, though, felt the eyes on him. Whispers started before the bell rang. Some kids noticed his shoes were slightly older, his backpack simpler. One boy sneered. "Hey, is that the kid from the news? The one who lived in the slums?" A few others giggled. Noah's shoulders stiffened. He lowered his gaze, silent. Emily spun around, eyes flashing. She stood right in front of the boy, fists balled. "You stop it," she said firmly, voice louder than expected for a 3-year-old. "Noah is my brother. He's the best. And you're mean." The classroom fell silent. Noah looked up at her, stunned. Emily turned and grabbed his hand again, smiling like nothing had happened. From that moment, the teasing faded and Noah found a quiet sense of safety beside her. At home, James and Mary worked together to help Noah through his transition. They sat at the dining table in the evenings going over homework. On weekends, they took the kids to the park where Emily insisted they all ride the carousel together. James packed snacks. Mary brought juice. And for the first time in years, they moved as one unit. Some moments were small but quietly profound, like when James handed Mary a sweater during a chilly afternoon, or when she adjusted his tie before a school event without thinking. The rhythm of co-parenting brought familiarity, and familiarity slowly warmed into something gentler. Then came the parent-teacher night. The classroom was decorated with crayon drawings. Parents mingled in clusters. James stood beside Mary, both listening attentively to Noah's teacher when a woman with designer heels and a sharp tone approached. "I suppose it must be strange for someone like you to be here," the woman said, addressing Mary with a condescending smile. "You know, not everyone fits in at schools like this." Mary stiffened. James stepped forward. His voice was calm, but firm. "Excuse me?" The woman blinked, clearly startled. "I meant no offense, of course. It's just, well, some people come from very different circumstances." James placed a protective hand on Mary's back. "Mary is the mother of my son. She raised him with strength and love under impossible conditions, and I respect her more than anyone else in this room." The woman faltered, then turned away without another word. Mary stood frozen for a moment, eyes glistening. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes, I did," James replied. "Because it's true." A few days later, James organized a family picnic in Central Park. He packed a basket full of handmade sandwiches, apple slices, and juice boxes. They laid out a blanket beneath a wide tree. Emily and Noah chased each other across the grass while James and Mary laughed from the sidelines. James tossed a ball to Noah, who caught it with a triumphant grin. Emily clapped and cheered, spinning in circles. Mary, sitting nearby, couldn't help but smile. As the sun dipped lower, Emily walked back, her cheeks flushed. She climbed into Mary's lap, wrapped her tiny arms around her, and said, "My mommy is gone, but you're really nice. Can you be my mommy, too?" Mary's breath caught. She looked down at the child in her arms, innocent, warm, and sincere. "I miss having a mommy," Emily whispered. "But I like you." Tears welled in Mary's eyes. She held Emily close, heart aching in ways she had not expected. That evening, as they packed up to leave, Mary walked beside James, quieter than usual. He glanced at her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. I've been thinking, she said, about what's best for Noah and for Emily. James listened patiently. I want to move closer, she said. Maybe not here, but near enough that the kids can be together. It will make things easier. James smiled. I think that's a great idea. They walked in silence for a moment more before Mary added, and maybe we can talk more about the past, about everything. James looked over at her, the wind rustling the trees around them. I'd like that. Together, they walked forward, not as two people divided by time and mistakes, but as two parents, slowly rediscovering trust, healing, and something that resembled hope. The weeks passed quietly, beautifully. In the rhythm of shared breakfasts and bedtime stories, James and Mary found a new closeness, not from duty, but trust. They spoke honestly, laughed more, and raised two children who, in their innocence, mended what had once been broken. Noah and Emily were now inseparable. They called each other brother and sister, as if they always had. One afternoon, Mary found them hunched over a giant sheet of paper, paintbrushes in hand. What are you working on? She asked, kneeling beside them. Emily beamed. Our family picture. That's you and Daddy and Noah and me and Mr. Snuggles, too. Mary smiled, eyes softening at the colorful, chaotic masterpiece. That night, James hung the painting in the hallway. This belongs here, he said. As their bond deepened, caution still lingered. One evening, James turned to Mary over coffee. I've been thinking. Maybe we should live together again. All of us. Mary hesitated. James. I know it's a lot, he added quickly. I appreciate it, she said gently. But I've fought hard for my independence. I'm not ready to give that up. James nodded. I understand, she smiled. But if the offer to help with the bakery still stands. It does, he said. Absolutely. He found a cozy space near the kids' school, took care of the paperwork quietly, and let Mary lead. She chose the name, menu, and tiles. What she didn't know was what James had named the shop behind the scenes. At the grand opening, balloons fluttered, neighbors lined up, and Noah and Emily handed out cookies in matching aprons. Mary stepped outside and looked up. The sign read Lukia's Dream. She froze. Lukia, her late mother's name. The one who had believed in her baking. The one who'd wanted nothing more than to see her daughter smile again. Tears welled in Mary's eyes. James stepped beside her. I wanted to honor her and you. Mary could only nod, moved beyond words. That night, after the guests had gone and the kids were dozing on the bakery bench, something unexpected happened. Noah developed a fever. It rose quickly. Mary panicked. James stayed calm, helping cool his skin, whispering reassurances. They stayed by his side all night. Mary held Noah's hand. James wrapped an arm around her. Together, they waited. Just before dawn, Noah stirred, eyes fluttering open. Are you both staying? We're right here, buddy. James said. Noah reached out, holding both their hands. I want you to stay together. I want us to be a family. They didn't speak. They just looked at each other. Something quiet passing between them. Later, after the fever broke and Noah was asleep again, Mary leaned into James. I've been so scared, she whispered. To trust again. But I see now you've changed. I had to, James said. For him, for you. For us, Mary closed her eyes. Then maybe we can try again slowly. One day at a time, James whispered, taking her hand. As morning light spilled across the bakery sign, Lucia's Dream. It glowed softly, like a promise. Inside, a family was beginning again, whole, healing, and finally at peace. 1 year later, the Whittaker household had settled into a quiet rhythm of joy, far from the noise and glare of the city. They now lived in a warm, sunlit home, nestled in the leafy suburbs of New York. The yard was always scattered with toys, chalk drawings, and laughter. A white picket fence bordered the garden where Emily had planted sunflowers, and Noah kept a small patch for tomatoes, insisting he wanted to grow real food like at the bakery. Mary's bakery, Lukia's dream, was thriving. Every morning, locals lined up for her famous cinnamon rolls and lemon tarts. The walls of the shop were now filled with drawings from neighborhood children, including many from Emily and Noah, who spent their afternoons there doing homework and sneaking extra cookies. James had stepped back from the helm of his empire. He still attended key meetings, but his schedule now orbited around school pickups, bedtime stories, and impromptu dance parties in the kitchen. Noah and Emily had become inseparable. They built forts, raced bikes down the sidewalk, and painted murals in the garage. To them, there had never been a before, only this beautiful now, where they were simply brother and sister, heart and soul. On a golden September afternoon, James and Mary hosted a small celebration in their backyard. The picnic table was decorated with wild flowers, and soft music played from a speaker tucked beneath the porch. Friends from the bakery, a few neighbors, and family gathered to celebrate the anniversary of the day everything changed. The day they all became one family. James grilled while Mary brought out her signature strawberry shortcake. Emily danced around in a pink tutu while Noah helped set the table, carefully arranging the plates. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, James tapped his glass. "Thank you all for being here," he said. "A year ago, I had no idea that my life was about to change forever. But it did in the best way. And today, I want to celebrate the heart of our home, our family." Mary smiled beside him, her eyes glowing. Just then, Noah and Emily came running forward. "We have a surprise," Emily squealed. They handed their parents a large, carefully folded piece of paper. When James opened it, his breath caught in his chest. It was a drawing, crayon strokes full of color and feeling. 4 figures holding hands beneath a setting sun. Above them in wobbly letters, it read, "Our family forever." Mary's hand found James's, and their eyes met. No words needed. James leaned down, kissed the top of each child's head, then turned to Mary. "There's something I want to give you," he said softly. From his pocket, he took out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a delicate silver ring engraved with 4 names. James, Mary, Noah, Emily. "This is not a proposal," he said, voice thick with emotion. "This is a promise that I will always be here for all of you, no matter what." Mary's eyes filled with tears. She slipped the ring onto her finger, holding his gaze. "Then I promised the same." As twilight settled over the yard, the family sat on the porch swing together. The children leaned against their parents, eyes drooping from the long day. Laughter echoed as fireflies blinked in the garden. James looked around, his heart full. "We may have lost each other once," he said, "but we're never letting go again." Mary nodded, her head resting against his shoulder. And so the story ended, not with grand gestures, but with something far greater, a family, whole, forgiven, unbreakable. Under the fading light of a gentle sky, they simply held on to one another because love, real love, always finds its way home. Thank you for watching this deeply moving journey of love, redemption, and second chances. James, Mary, Noah, and Emily remind us that no matter how broken the past may be, forgiveness and compassion can build a future worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, do not forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more real-life inspired tales that heal, inspire, and bring warmth to your soul. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us what it means to be family. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, take care and keep your heart open.